Welcome, everybody, to Shadows and Sightings, the paranormal podcast, where we talk about all things spooky, creepy, wacky, weird, strange, all that good stuff, from ghost stories and urban legends to cryptids and conspiracy theories. I'm Taylor.
I'm Nick.
And today we have a special episode on the Jersey Devil. Nick, I know you love you some Jersey Devil.
He's very interesting as far as cryptids are concerned. He's not like a super heavy hitter, I guess, in like the cryptid world, but he's like
He's not your A-list celebrity of the cryptids. He'll be a fun time at a party if he's invited.
People know who he is.
Yeah. Once you see him, he's got one of those unforgettable faces.
Oh, yeah, that guy.
Yeah. He's like Forrest Whitaker, or it's like, like he's in a bunch of stuff. You don't really know his name, but once you see him, you're like, oh yeah, I know that guy.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're gonna be talking about the origins of the Jersey Devil, where he's from, how the story kind of came to be, where he's at in pop culture, all kinds of those things regarding this South Jersey, North Philadelphia native that we love in the Pine Barrens. Nick, what do you got for us on the Jersey Devil? What's your experience with the Jersey Devil? How do you know about him? What is something that sticks out in your brain about him?
I guess the first exposure I had to the Jersey Devil, or hearing about the Jersey Devil, was from that show, The X-Files, back in the day.
Great show.
They did, fantastic show, where they did an episode on the Jersey Devil, but it was different. It wasn't like the traditional Jersey Devil that we're used to. So, the goat head, the bat wings, the
forked tail,
and like the not stumpy legs, but like the little thin stick legs.
Right. Cloven hooves.
The cloven hooves, like the traditional Jersey Devil. Their take on it was more of like the Jersey Devil was like feral family living out in like the Pine Barrens.
Yeah.
Cave people, essentially. So people going missing were being taken away by this like feral family. And,
I don't know. I actually really like that story. I like the way that they like kind of tied that in. Like that's a really interesting concept to me.
It's more terrifying.
It is more terrifying, because it's way more realistic.
Yeah, exactly.
For one.
Like the Pine Barrens, I think is like 1 million square feet.
Okay,
or 1 million acres. Yeah,
it's like 1 million square feet. It's not that much.
1 million acres, or about 1,700 square miles, is what the Pine Barrens is. So it's a rather large
protected forest. I believe it's protected by the government.
Park Service. Yeah, it's a federal park. Which, I mean, it's kind of reasonable then if you think about it. If there was some sort of cryptid floating around the Pine Barrens, like plenty of space for it to hide and to not, especially if it's like an intelligent enough cryptid where it like does not want to be found.
Oh yeah,
the Pine Barrens would be a good spot to
absolutely. I feel like that goes for like a lot of cryptids too, like Sasquatch, for instance. Like he's all over the place, but there's like so much room that is not explored. Like there's no way that you could actually cover that much ground and ever find him.
For sure.
Same for the Jersey Devil. Like you would have to have some insane manpower to even try to attempt to find it.
Right.
A feral pack of
we will literally overturn every single rock in the Pine Barrens until we find this thing.
Jesus. I wonder if the U.S. military has technology capable of just vastly scanning the Pine Barrens for forms of life and just like see if there's anything in there that shouldn't be.
There's a show on Disney Plus where it's a travel show where this dude's going around. I think Andrew Lim, I think is what his name is.
Okay.
Goes around different like archaeological sites, like Machu Picchu, just as an example. And he uses like this drone and this technology, I think it's called LiDAR, where it literally just takes pictures of the ground and then it sends pings down to like the ground and like pings back up to the drone. In the row, it pretty much creates like a map of like structures or whatever that are like in the dense forest. Found this like crazy ruins, I think like the Amazon or something like that, and they were able to map it out because of this like new technology. So
interesting.
That's for structures. Maybe they have something like that for people, or just biological entities. Yeah,
I mean they could use a structure to figure out if they could figure out where the Jersey Devil lives.
It's like, oh, there's a house right there.
How do we miss this mansion in the Pine Barrens? Called Jersey Devil Estates.
He's looking right at us.
Is that him flipping us off down there?
No, he doesn't look too happy.
Wow, rude of him.
So the X-Files was like the first exposure I had. And then around the same time, there was I don't know if you remember that show. I think it was History's Mysteries on the History Channel. It was
I
some
never particularly watched it, but it sounds familiar.
like a show. It was either that show or something similar to it, where they did like an episode on the Jersey Devil. That was the more traditional sense of the Jersey Devil that I was exposed to. So
Right.
like the what we know the Jersey Devil is today.
Right.
What's your background with the JD?
I got nothing. I have no idea. No, I'm just kidding.
Moving on.
No, I really didn't really know too much about the Jersey Devil until kind of recently. Started watching a couple of documentaries on cryptids and things like that, and the Jersey Devil kept popping up as one, and his lore was just really fascinating. So I didn't really have any exposure to him before we kind of started talking about doing this podcast. Of course, I've had interest in other cryptids and stuff like
Sure.
that. Once you go down that rabbit hole, you're bound to run into the JD. So no experience really with me because I didn't watch the X Files as a kid, which I regret now.
Go back and watch it now.
Good, but it won't be the same.
Oh, I will, dude. You'll get sucked into it. It's so good. You'll see all the cryptid episodes. You'll be like, this is the cryptid they were talking about. I don't, you know, but I don't think they ever did an episode on Mothman.
Which is a shame. 'Cause Mothman's the best.
A lot of other cryptids that they covered in that show, but Mothman, I don't think was one of the ones.
We hate to see it. Let's petition X Files to have one more episode.
Bring it back for one episode.
2-hour long Mothman
special
extravaganza. So, yeah, I don't really have a history with the Jersey Devil, but definitely interested in learning about him more today. So, with that being said, I think we should just kind of get into the origins of where the story kind of comes from. And as we mentioned before, this story kind of originates in the New Jersey Pine Barrens, is a vast protected swath of forest in South New Jersey, bordering close to Philadelphia. This story kind of goes back to 1730s?
1735.
1735.
Yeah.
So, Nick, I'll let you take it from there.
Yeah, so 1735, it was a dark and stormy night. The windows and the shutters were flapping back and forth, lightning.
Violently.
And there's a lady by the name of, her name is Jane Leeds, but if you look at a lot of the story and like the folklore behind the Jersey Devil, she's often referred to as Mother Leeds.
Mom Leeds.
Mama Leeds. And the story, or the history has it that she had 12 children, and in 1735, on a stormy night, she was in labor with her 13th child, and this 13th child was presumably the Jersey Devil. So she's going through this like labor, and she's just not having it, and finally she like curses the child, and from that action, the Jersey Devil is born,
both literally and figuratively.
Figuratively and literally. What emerged from her womb supposedly was this tiny demon-esque creature, had the head of a goat, bat wings, the pitchfork tail, cloven hooves, and it's just flying around this room and like slapping everybody with its tail.
It's big Jersey Devil dick.
Yeah, just mollywopping people. And then it flies out goes up the chimney, flies out into the Pine Barrens.
I like to imagine it just like uppercuts a dude on its way out, just absolutely wrecks him. He goes flying out the window.
Just like cartwheels out the window, like slow motion, just dragging all physics out the window. It's funny, like the guy in the corner, like recording all this. That's what I want to know. Like with this story, like when this is all happening, who's the guy that goes and tells people, "Oh yeah, she just gave birth to a demon"?
There's the random clergyman in the room delivering this thing.
The only one that didn't get hit. He's like just sitting there with like his little piece of paper, like looking back and forth, and just like recording everything. I drew a sketch. This is what it looked like.
Harry, are you drunk right now? What is that thing?
I mean, there's other versions of it. One version is that Mother Leeds was supposedly a witch,
as they always are.
Yeah, and then she was in league with the devil. So of course, like the father of the Jersey Devils, like the devil himself.
The actual devil.
Yeah. There's like another version out there where there was like a gypsy involved, and like the gypsy was asking for food or something to that effect. She was like denied the food, and then of course, like the story kind of goes from there.
Yeah. I even seen a story, and I just briefly came upon it while I was looking for books, like information on topics, and it said the Jersey Devil was also evolved out of a story of the pirates. Captain Kidd nailed a dude to a tree or something. And
what if they like showed up here and the Jersey Devil's already here, and it's actually just a story about these pirates fighting the Jersey Devil? This needs to be.
Oh man, yeah, Hollywood, if you're listening to this,
Captain Kidd going toe to toe with the Jersey Devil.
Yeah. which Blackbeard makes a cameo appearance just for a second.
Doesn't even do anything.
Yeah, he just shows up.
Hey, and then leaves.
Yeah, like you were saying, like the person recording it, it's funny that you actually mentioned that. With these origin stories, it's always interesting to me how they start, where they go from there, and how they get spread. Back in like the 1730s, you got to think that a story like that is going to be one, like kind of like front page news. But at the same time, it's all so outlandish that it's like just a tall tale that you could go tell your friends at the bar.
For sure.
There's not a whole lot going on back then. In the 1730s, the local tavern is like the place that you get your news from, get your entertainment from.
Yeah.
So some dude showing up just, hey guys, you'll never believe this one.
Yeah, right.
Let me tell you a tale of the Jersey Devil.
Yeah.
People just take that as fact because it's just such a good story that somebody's like, yo, you know what? I'm gonna go tell my wife and kids about this story tonight. And then those kids tell their friends about this story, and like it just goes on from there. Somehow sticks around for going on 300 years now.
And also, too, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if the version or the story that we have today of the Jersey Devil and the origin story of it is completely different from what actually,
absolutely.
Luckily, it's probably read this today and be like, none of that happened.
Yeah.
You gave birth to two devils.
The 13th was actually my favorite one, I'll have you know.
The 14th one, though, complete jerk.
Screw that guy.
So it makes you wonder, I guess, what actually occurred back then to like what actually
it's like a giant game of telephone. Like you ever play that game where you say something to somebody and they say it the next thing, and like by the end of it, you get something completely different than what the first person said.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. It could be just an absolutely insane story now, but back then it was like way simpler, and it was like not even close to what we're talking about.
No, there's like no devil involved. Whatever, like
right.
So like, wait, I gave birth to what? Like,
yeah,
no, like that didn't happen at all.
I wouldn't blame her though, because 13 children is a lot of freaking children.
Yeah, that is like I can't even imagine.
Even for standards back then, I mean, you have to have children to work your farm and like help you with chores and raise the other children.
That's what it was.
So most of the time, most of those children, unfortunately, back then wouldn't ever grow up or wouldn't last through childbirth or anything like that. So for someone to feel so strongly about having a 13th child that they'd be willing to curse it in front of clergymen, in front of their peers, is still kind of an outrageous story to me to begin with, because you're not that far removed from, like, say, the Salem witch trials, where 1690s to 1735, it's not that long of a gap, where if you're cursing a child by the devil, like that's still like a major thing. I might be way off there, but
no, not much time has passed, and I think that's definitely still like the mentality. America back in like the 1700s, like around that time, it's still like that strongly like religious,
right? Puritans kind of like fallen off, but still there.
It's
God and country is very prominent.
And you got to think, we're not going to see 1735, so the Industrial Revolution hasn't even happened yet. It's not going to happen for like another 100, 120 years, 1850s, like when it started like that. Yeah, so it's not surprising the story originated the way that it did. And then, of course, there's other theories as to why the story like originated. Of course, so there's Daniel Leeds, or Daddy Leeds, as we'll call him, Papa Leeds.
Dad Leeds, coming in hot.
He kind of comes into the story as he's the head of the Leeds family. He's a Quaker, and he's also trying to get his own almanac published. He starts bumping heads with like the Quaker community, though, because in his almanac, he's including things like astrology, Christian mysticism, and stuff like that.
Right.
And
things that you just don't talk about.
That or things that just don't really jive with like the Quaker community.
Right. They're all super religious too. Yeah. It's not just Puritans that are that way. Quakers are also very set in their ways.
Yeah. So for him to be including this kind of stuff in his almanac, of course, it kind of raises an eyebrow for the Quaker community. So one of the theories is that all of the myth and the legend behind the Jersey Devil was more or less just like a fabricated type of thing to kind of like, drag the Leeds family name through the mud.
Right.
So it kind of has repercussions for like what he was doing to like the Quaker community.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, there's the whole history with Benjamin Franklin.
Of all people.
Oh, well, yeah.
Who at the same time is trying to get an almanac published.
And this is like a young Ben Franklin versus like an older.
Just young, jacked, ripped beyond belief, just banging everything in sight.
Like it's just he would have been an interesting person to talk to.
Just for like a day.
I'd say like an hour. I think I could probably tolerate Ben Franklin for like an hour.
Come on, you don't want to hang out all day with Benny Franks?
I would maybe multiple founding fathers for
You
like the
gotta have
whole
them all in the
day.
same room. It would
Like
be like a lot of arguing. I feel like you just get them one on one. It's just like this is a whole lot more.
like it's just like just to talk to me like so. What are you thinking about all the time? Like,
I'll tell you, my good sir. You know what? Actually, I'm sorry I asked.
exactly. Wait. No. Oh God.
But yeah, you're right. So around this time, Ben Franklin's trying to get an almanac into the public eye. Daddy Leeds is working on his almanac. They're kind of button heads, old guy versus young guy. Basically, kind of the story of that is that like Benjamin Franklin's kind of running his name down. He's like kind of talking smack on this guy. It kind of ties back because, what are the chances that he says, hey, that Daniel Leeds or Daddy Leeds up there, he's the devil. And because you're just trying to ruin this guy's reputation. You're trying to get your almanac out in front of the people. You're trying to just essentially politic your way into getting a publishing to your name. It turns out that the Leeds family crest at the time, or maybe still, I don't know if there's any Leeds still out there.
I know the beef, I guess, between like Leeds and Franklin may have started with Daddy Leeds and Benjamin Franklin, but then it like once Daniel Leeds passes away, his son Titan,
which is a cool name.
It is an amazing name. Titan Leeds actually inherits the business, and I think the feud continues
with the Franks,
with Benjamin Franklin, which was called Poor Richard's Almanac. You definitely have like these like political, a lot of different things are coming into play here. So like what kind of like drove
right,
like the myth, the legend,
Well, like I was saying, the family crest at the time was a animal that looks like a dragon with a weird kangaroo head and skinny legs and stuff like that. Like their family crest is almost a identical representation of what the Jersey Devil ends up coming known as. Yeah. I think
the Jersey Devil, like the description of it, is very closely resembles like the family crest. So right. Like that kind of comes into play, and yeah, like it, and it is not going anywhere. Like the Jersey Devil, it's been what? So 1735 is like around the time this legend, and here we are here in 2024, and like the legend is still here.
Yeah, almost 300 years, 290 years later.
And of course, like the Jersey Devil has made its way in like popular culture. There's other historical anecdotes of the Jersey Devil, like you had mentioned Napoleon Bonaparte's brother. Like the background, like the story behind that.
Yeah.
Like what was the issue, or not the issue? So like, what's like the details behind like that encounter?
Yeah. So basically, like after the Napoleonic Wars ended, Joseph Bonaparte, I'm not sure if he was excommunicated or if he willingly moved to America, but he ends up settling in the Pine Barrens near where this Jersey Devil myth kind of begins. And the story pretty much goes that he is out hunting with his dog and stuff. And one night he runs into the Jersey Devil. Some stories say that he has a cannon with him. I don't think that he has a cannon with him, but I like that version of the story, but I just don't think that's true. Likely he was just out hunting with his hunting rifle or musket or whatever he had at the time. So they pretty much have this moment where he sees the Jersey Devil sees him, and their stare down happens. He shoots the Jersey Devil like right in the face, and it just like no sells it, does not go down, doesn't affect him in the slightest, lets out a blood curdling scream that's now like part of the Jersey Devil lore and flies away. And then his Joseph Bonaparte spends like the rest of his time in America searching for this thing because he wants to kill it and show people that he killed it. So I'm guessing the story of the Jersey Devil is alive and well at this point because he knows about it and is trying to kill it.
I wonder if he knew about it prior to that encounter. Like, was he in the Pine Barrens hunting for it and then he found it? Or was he just out minding his own business and then, like, kind of just out of dumb luck came cross paths with it?
I guess I'd have to figure out, like, when Joseph Bonaparte, like, comes to America.
I'm not sure.
Like, the Napoleonic Wars, I guess, would have been around the same time as that. I just think it's interesting that of all the people that could be associated with the Jersey Devil, you get Napoleon Bonaparte's brother, and he's out here now some people say like if you go to the Pine Barrens, you can still see like the ghost of Joseph Bonaparte hunting the Jersey Devil. They're eternally tethered to each other in a way. So I just think that that's really interesting that of all the people that could have lore in, early America, it's still a Bonaparte.
I mean, obviously he came over here to kind of lay low and start a new life after his brother like fell from power or whatever. But yeah, like it's just an interesting like anecdote of
Right.
them crossing paths like that.
Right. And I'm more interested in them being, like I said, eternally tethered to each other. To be eternally tethered to something else
Yeah.
is an interesting theory to me because you would have to spend a lot of time focused on it or a lot of time with it or something along those lines.
There's like some unresolved connection there.
Right. That would really suck if you're like your afterlife is just you endlessly searching for something that may or may not exist. That's brutal.
That's tough. That's
Brutal for the Bonapartes.
That's a harsh life sentence right there.
It is.
But I mean, in Jersey Devil, it's clearly not going away. It's made its way into popular culture for all of you Fallout fans out there. The Jersey Devil is a creature that you can encounter in Fallout 76.
Recently rewatched What We Do in the Shadows, and Jersey Devil shows up in one of the later seasons, and like their description of him is just hilarious to me. They say that he's he hunts children that don't believe in him. Oh man! And then they end up seeing the Jersey Devil, and they play some Bon Jovi to sedate him and cut his head off.
I'm sure a lot of kids like, how's that work? Okay, he only eats people that, or only eats kids that don't believe in him. If you've never heard of him, can you not believe in it because you've never heard of it, or is that fair game?
Man, now you're just getting into ethics.
Yeah,
getting into ethics here, man.
Like, does the Jersey Devil have morals? Does he have standards? These are the questions.
These are the questions that need asked and not answered.
That keep me up at night.
But yeah, he's definitely worked his way into popular culture. I mean, he's the New Jersey state demon. I don't think any other states have a state demon, but he is theirs. And you have the Jersey Devils, the hockey team. It's just so much stuff that pertains to the Jersey Devil mythology that has kept him relevant for so long. Because, like we said, it's just such an interesting origin story of all the cryptids. I think he's got one of the only like fleshed out versions of a story of how he came to be. Because like we have a story about Mothman of like people seeing him, but they don't really have a like where did he come from? What is he like really? Whereas the Jersey Devil, we have kind of a couple of different versions of it, but all of it ties back to a cursed 13th child, essentially cast out and into the Pine Barrens it goes.
And it definitely doesn't look like there's like any shortage of like sightings.
So sightings are still happening today.
I'm not sure when like the last reported sighting is. There was like the devil craze of like 1909. Nearly 1,000 reports came in from eyewitnesses throughout South Jersey claiming to have seen or encountered like the Jersey Devil. As far as like modern sightings go, it's like we have the devil in the roadway. So Mary Ritzer Christensen, as a New Jersey resident, said she got the heebie-jeebies one night in 1972 when she spotted the Jersey Devil on Green Tree Road. Kind of sounds similar to like the Mothman encounter. Christensen was driving from Blackwood to Glassboro when she says she saw a towering figure crossing the road about 25 feet behind her car. She described the figure as standing taller than an average man with thick haunches. Like
thick haunches.
It doesn't look like he's going anywhere anytime soon.
No, of course not. I would hope not, because I mean, it's like any kind of folklore. Like you just don't want that to just fade away. Me personally, anyway. Like the more we have that's steeped in our history and our culture, the better,
for sure. And who knows? Like, how will this story continue to change over the years?
Right.
Like, is it going to be the same Jersey Devil origin story that we have like 300 years from now?
Will there be a 300 years from now?
This is true.
But I agree. It could absolutely change again. Even, 10, 15, 20 years. Who knows? If there's more sightings of it or people claim to see it, that story still may continue to change.
No. If there's irrefutable evidence that pops up that says, actually, it wasn't Mother Leeds.
Right, exactly.
It was, no, as far as like cryptids go, he's definitely, like I said, a well-known cryptid. And I think, just like a widely accepted cryptid in like the cryptid community at this point.
There's definitely got to be some sort of, I know like cryptozoologists are kind of becoming a I don't know about a major thing, but definitely starting to become more prevalent. So I would assume that at some point there's going to be kind of a more concentrated effort into actually finding out its existence or not.
I think that's fair. I wonder why. Like, what is like the lack of like, and that could be something that we could explore in like a future episode too. The origins of like cryptozoology, why it's taken as long as it has to kind of like become more mainstream like today.
I think it's just one of those things where it's so hard to prove one of them. It's like it's so hard to prove that a cryptid exists.
So I would imagine that it's hard to get funding from like
From government
government
agencies, from private
agencies.
donors, from
Yeah,
anybody. Like you have to find specific people that are willing to support your cause of doing something that may never garner any results.
exactly.
So I feel like that's probably 98% of the reason as to why cryptozoology just doesn't get the recognition or anything. I don't know. Does cryptozoology cover the whole spectrum of cryptids, or is it like just cryptids that are based in animal, like DNA kind of thing? Jersey Devil to me is more of like
It's more like a demon.
it's like a mythical, like spiritual thing or something,
Yeah.
or from like a different plane of existence. Because there's like this theory that there's a lake somewhere deep in the Pine Barrens that it's like acts as a portal to where the Jersey Devil can enter and
Yeah.
leave as he pleases. So to me, that doesn't fit in any kind of box of being able to study an animal that can do something like that because it's
True.
just a supernatural power essentially.
Yeah, at that point. I tend to agree. I think that with cryptozoology in like the traditional sense is studying actual tangible biological entities that really haven't been discovered yet, that we have like evidence of something roaming, in the wild. Think of Bigfoot and like all like the plaster foot, like, casings. I don't know what it is,
Oh
like
yeah. Mm-hmm.
the molds. And so we see these like imprints, we see these giant footprints out in the wild, and it's like, okay, there's something making it, but we haven't actually found proof of it yet. But we have enough evidence to suggest that something potentially is walking out here, some
Right.
undiscovered thing. So like I think that's more of like the traditional sense of like what cryptozoology is. But I definitely do think that it kind of bleeds a little bit into like cases like the Jersey Devil, where it's like a creature per se, but we really don't have a whole lot to go off of. We just kind of have like stories and like anecdotal evidence of like
Essentially tall
sightings.
tales.
Yeah, exactly.
And especially like the Jersey Devil with an origin story so at times specific and at other times so different. Like
Yeah,
we said with the Benjamin Franklin story and with the actual widely accepted story.
yeah,
If you choose to believe either one of those, you either believe that the Jersey Devil exists in the traditional sense of what it looks like,
yeah,
or you believe that it was just a story made up to essentially drag somebody else through the mud.
yeah.
So
What do you think? Do you believe the Jersey Devil is a thing roaming around the Pine Barrens?
I think there's definitely the potential that it could exist in the traditional sense.
Yeah,
Like we kind of said, that the Pine Barrens are a huge vast of forest.
yeah.
And if there is some way that a portal could be existent deep within the pines,
We
and
must find it.
we must find the lake portal. If there's such a thing that could exist, and sure, absolutely, I'd like
Sure.
to believe that.
Yeah.
I'd like to believe that the Jersey Devil's real. I certainly don't want to believe that Benjamin Franklin just trash talked somebody's name into actually doing, his this Jersey Devil legend kind of competing with the legend of Benjamin Franklin at this point,
No,
which
like
is
come
kind of
on,
ironic. But
come on, Benny Franks, you're better than that.
be better, Ben
Well,
Franklin.
be better.
To answer your question, yes, I think that the Jersey Devil could exist, maybe not specifically as a demon from hell so much as just an unexplained creature
Yeah,
that maybe has found a way to replicate or duplicate or mate or something along those lines to keep these sightings up and not just existing for the last 350 years. So that's kind of where I'm at on it. What about you?
I definitely think that if it roams the Pine Barrens, it's more of a supernatural, spiritual kind of tied to like demon-esque like lore than it is like an undiscovered creature.
Right.
Just because of like the origin stories. Like let's let's play devil advocate here and like mother leaves and all that actually happened.
Right.
That's not like a biological, like undiscovered animal. That was like you gave birth to a demon.
Right.
And
That's something that you cursed upon yourself,
yeah, like
not an animal.
there's like,
That's what I'm saying. Like the cryptozoology thing. Like that's where it's like, where's the where's the line get
where do
drawn?
you draw the line there? So yeah, I mean, I like to believe that maybe at some point in time there was like the spiritual aspect of it. Maybe there was some sort of demon thing floating around,
Right.
and maybe there is that energy is still kind of lurking and it manifests itself as like the Jersey Devil
Mhm.
in the Pine Barrens today. But as far as it being like a physical, like undiscovered creature, no, I don't think that's the case. Like, because there's been like no evidence at all or anything like
Right.
that. Of so that's probably where I stand on that.
So no evidence physically, but definitely a lot of sightings and things like that over the years. There's been tales of people going up to the Pine Barrens to camp. You know how the stories go that, they get to the campsite. Two of them are like, okay, well, we're going to set up the campsite. You go find firewood and you go do this or whatever. And the one person who goes off by themselves runs into the Jersey Devil,
Yeah,
hears the iconic blood curdling scream,
yeah,
sees it, whatever, and they go back to their friends and they're like, we got to get out of here.
yeah.
Like, we can't stay here. And they're
There's
just like
something.
terrified to their core. And
Yeah,
then they never want to go back. And those people are out there. If you're one of them and you're listening to this podcast, we'd love to hear from you.
yeah, for sure. Please send us a message, email us, for our contact info in the comment section.
And we, of course, would keep it anonymous if you chose to do so.
For sure. But we're always interested in hearing, firsthand accounts with any cryptids or ghosts or just weird, spooky experiences that you guys have. Please share them with us because we're always open to discussing them on this podcast.
So now we've kind of talked about if the Jersey Devil is real. Would you go camping in the Pine Barrens?
Yeah, because we've been camping in Jersey. I'm not sure if it was the Pine Barrens. I remember we drove through the Pine Barrens, but I can't remember if the spot that we camped at was like specifically like in the Pine Barrens. It was no different than like camping anywhere else, though.
You didn't have anything spooky happen to you while you were driving through?
No, nothing out of the ordinary. A lot of potholes, a lot of like Jersey is always an experience. Like, no offense against like New Jersey, but like if I do everything in my power to avoid driving through Jersey, to stay in Jersey, just to go to Jersey. um,
We passed through on the way to Salem, and
yeah,
for one, it's just so expensive to drive through. Like the tolls are insane.
yeah.
We were driving up like at midnight. We stop at Jersey. We get there and like it's like 4 a.m, and try to just find a gas station to go to the bathroom.
All the gas stations were like closed.
They're all closed because they pump the gas for you,
Yeah.
and it's just like, damn it, I just need to go to the bathroom.
It's like, yeah.
We went to the sketchiest bathhouse, I think that, or not a bathhouse, a bathroom.
Yeah.
That was like,
it was like outside when it like
yeah,
he gave us a key to like to go to this
that might have been the Jersey Devil.
Maybe
running the bathroom there.
Ooh, maybe it's like that because the government knows that the Jersey Devil's lurking around. They don't want people out at night. That's why they all the gas stations like that.
Yeah, that could be.
And they don't fill the potholes in because they don't want people driving out there to be on the roads. Stay away from the Jersey Devil.
You know what? You sold me. I believe that now.
Or maybe they just fill the potholes, but the Jersey Devil keeps going in and like making more potholes.
That's how he gets you.
Yeah.
He figured it out a long time ago that cars have to stop for potholes. So if you stop for a pothole or drive through one and break your car, he's got you. He's got you right where he wants you.
Exactly. It's always an experience going to Jersey. I'm sure eventually, for some reason, we'll end up back in Jersey.
I wonder if they'll ever have like a Jersey Devil festival.
I think I have seen some things before. You know how they have like the Mothman Festival.
Mm-hmm.
I think there is a New Jersey one, like a Jersey Devil one.
I feel like you'd almost have to at this point. He's got enough notoriety now.
Yeah,
I think he deserves
for sure.
He deserves his own festival
For sure. I'm sure around Halloween time, there's like Jersey Devil through in Jersey probably is
just people dressed up as the Jersey Devil.
No, exactly. It's like a new.
I would go to the Jersey Devil festival dressed as Ben Franklin. See what's happening. See what happens. Just talking shit.
Jersey Devil shows up.
Yeah. Oh, you could go dressed as Joseph Bonaparte, and we'll tag team him.
I'll carry a cannon around with me. Yeah. With my arch nemesis, my other arch nemesis.
Finally, we meet. The showdown of the century.
No, for sure. So what else are we going to cover on this podcast, Taylor?
So this podcast is going to be a little bit of diving into ghost stories, urban legends, things of that nature. And then, of course, like we did today, cryptids. We're going to do some aliens, some conspiracy theories, haunted locations, anything spooky. We're all about the spooky stuff over here. So we're trying to really put together a solid list of topics. We've been talking about this podcast for like 10 years, done some research, but we like to keep it light and keep it funny and not too dark or anything like that. So
We're gonna get dark.
hopefully that comes across in the episodes. You know, just two guys talking about cryptids and spooky stuff. That's the energy we're trying to bring to
Sounds
this
good.
podcast.
And of course, if you guys, all of our listeners out there, if you any cryptids native to where you're at, or close to home, or any crazy experiences that you guys have experienced, shoot them our way.
Yeah.
Let us know. That way we can kind of bring it up. We're always looking for new content, and we're always interested in finding out about like other like local cryptids. Like there are ones around here that I had no idea. What was the one you were telling me about the other day? The
Snarly Yow.
yeah, I was like, what is that?
Yeah, we'll definitely do an episode on the Snarly Yow.
Yeah,
Some of these cryptids will dig deeper into the folklore. With the Jersey Devil, there's just so much there. Then there's so many different versions of the story.
Yeah.
But some of these cryptids have like one story, and we can really deep dive into some of those things. Like Snarly Yow is definitely one where that's more of just like a local to our area cryptid. We might not have as much of a basis of origins or anything, but we probably have more accessibility to finding information on it.
Yeah. I think around here where we're at, I think our bread and butter is probably going to be more like ghost stories and like,
oh yeah,
because like we're at like a prime spot, Gettysburg, Antietam, Shepherdstown, Harper's Ferry, like it's, I think we're more concentrated on like ghost stories around here and hauntings.
And if that's your kind of thing, check out our next episode. It's going to be on the ghosts of Gettysburg.
Ooh, yeah, that'll be a fun one.
So like we said, if you have any cryptids in your area, if you have any ghost stories, anything particularly fascinating, maybe a haunted location or maybe a urban legend that is unique to your state, your city, your hometown, whatever it may be, you can find us on Facebook at Shadows and Sightings, a paranormal podcast, or on Instagram, Shadows and Sightings Pod, or send us an email, shadowsandsightings@gmail.com. That's going to wrap up this episode. We'll talk to you next time when we cover all things spooky.